Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It's Chris, joined by the full crew tonight, Milton and Ben, back from a little hiatus. I was on the channel last week with Matthew from Ion Canada talking about High Republic. This week, we're talking about what games we want to have remastered, as well as finally talking about the news. We've been going from series to series with this crazy year of Star Wars, but we're finally calming down. It's the calm before the storm of 2024. So we're going to start having these evergreen discussions, which I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy these kind of deep dive discussions where we kind of can go off the rails, but have some fun at the same time. So yeah, we're coming back after a couple of weeks to the show proper. This is episode 127. What are you guys up to? I'm going to throw it to you, Ben.
Lately, the last few weeks, I've just been kind of doing the normal stuff, like the fitness grind, spending time with family and friends. We had a day last week, for our, a completely irrelevant point for any of our listeners that aren't from Northwest Ohio, but we had a day last week where it actually snowed here, which was shocking. It snowed on Halloween. Halloween night, it snowed from like 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, so it was pretty crazy, like seeing snow and like all that, but now it's all gone, so... we had a bit of snow, and then, between that and my fitness stuff, talking Star Wars randomly to here and there to people online is always a lot of fun, and just it can be interesting to say the least. And then, and then just enjoying the NFL season, enjoying the Browns going and winning today again. So it's been a good NFL year, good Star Wars year. And, we're winding down really well. And then as we were talking before the show started, Loki's been excellent as well. If anybody hasn't watched that, definitely catch up before the new episode this week, because I think this is the finale this Thursday coming up. So
it is,
that's kind of a little bit of what I've been up to.
Oh, yeah. Milton, catch us up. I know you're kind of in the middle of some intensity there with the Eagles game, still recording on Sunday night here. How's it going, man? Are they in the lead?
Oh yeah, we're winning by 11, but I mean we're playing the Cowboys. As you see, repping my Eagle swag, Cowboy Killers. Because I don't like those that team's trash. You know what I mean? So, yeah, right now we're trying to get this dub, maintaining first place in the NFC is what we do. But other than that, though, I've been good. Just been busy the last couple of weeks. As you know, we have been on the hiatus. Last week, if we would have done the podcast, you wouldn't have heard my voice because your boy was sick. So it was shot. There's no way I would have done it last week. But other than that, though, I'm good. Just been busy with working, still maintaining, my thing when it comes to my lifestyle, and just, enjoying life. But I'm glad to be back.
Oh, yeah. Great sum up there. We're going to catch up with some Star Wars things. It's been a while, so I'm sure maybe we can dig up some memories or something or other, or cool memorabilia or something. I'll start this one off because this was pretty wild. Today I was at work. I work retail, and apparently I'm working with a droid now. I'm not even kidding. There is this thing called a tally. Picture like a Roomba as the base of this robot, and it's like this tall rectangle about 6 feet up. About halfway through, it's got a little LED screen with like little blinking eyes, and this thing is completely autonomous, and it goes throughout the store. And it does inventory check on the shelves. I work at a place where it's very much like a gigantic warehouse, kind of a wholesale club, if you will. So there's a lot of inventory, a lot of big bulk kind of items. So this thing goes through and it scans, but it's really funny because its eyes are animated like Spider-Man or Deadpool. And then it has like little like audio cues where it's like humming, it's like pleasantly like making like like if a worker, like a pleasant worker bee person, like doing their job. It's got that. I purposely tried to screw it up, tried to like stand in front of it and stuff, and it'll pleasantly just like stop patiently and then move as soon as you go around. And as soon as customers came into the building, it was funny as heck, because this could have been gold for YouTube. I could have just been sitting there recording in a corner people's reactions to this thing, because people are just ambivalent to this thing, and it's just all of a sudden they're like, they're kind of like jump because the thing moves towards them or moves away, and you would think that there's somebody with like a remote control hiding around the corner. No, this thing, there's no supervision. You just let it loose, and then when it needs to recharge, it comes back and charge. So it's just dawned on me. I'm like, this is basically a droid that I'm working with. It's like, okay, I'm next. I'm going to lose my job because somebody's going to start stocking shelves. They're going to have a robot like K2SO, like some big jacked security droid doing something like that. Or I don't know, but that was interesting. As like I was saying, I was like, oh my gosh, hopefully this is not Skynet, the beginning of Skynet. I do not want to have AI take over and just, run people over with the Roomba.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, with technology like that, I mean, it's just advancing and advancing so much. Like I was just talking to one of my friends about, not specifically say like robots like that. Like we were just talking about like some of the AI tech that's out there. It's crazy to think about like, some of those Amazon warehouses that are in bigger cities, like, they're pretty much unmanned where, you can just go in and check out with like the AI stuff and everything. And like, like the way AI is advancing, it's like, I don't know. It's just really interesting to see like the direction that's heading. And I'm interested to see, how far it eventually gets to, in our lifetimes. Like it's going to be cool to see that. But yeah, I mean, you have that for you. For me, my week wasn't as nearly as interesting. I wasn't interacting with any like big autonomous droids. But no, mine was interesting just because like all right. So one thing, there's Star Wars Online is always an interesting place. Like I always joke, I always post the meme of Obi-Wan telling Luke, Mos Eisley's a hive of scum and villainy. Like that's always like my thing describing like Star Wars Online half the time. And because I bring this up just because you had like these past couple weeks I really dove into like researching Star Wars comedy because there was like a controversy over the South Park Star Wars special that came out.
Oh.
And the funny thing was, that was like a whole thing. Like Star Wars Online, when you talk Star Wars Online, there's always a thing Star Wars people cling to every week. Like there's a new controversy of the week. Oh, well, yeah. The South Park thing was controversial just because like, it pointed out some funny stuff about like Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm, and it was a good laugh. And like the thing is, with Star Wars fans, I think, and fans in general of like movies and things, like, you got to be able to laugh at the things you really love. Because like, for example, that made me purposely, like this past week, I actually watched some of the best like Star Wars related comedy things leading up to this to like talk about this point. Like, we had the South Park thing come out. It's funny, like it's comedy. And like the reason why people laugh at a lot of like comedic jokes, like one of my favorite comedians is Dave Chappelle. Like I've always loved his stuff. Like he's always really funny. And like a lot of the stuff he says is so on edge, but it's on edge because it's funny, because we laugh, because we can relate to those things. Like, I laughed at like the South Park Star Wars thing because I can relate to it, like, because I can see where people are saying stuff like that. So like, I started watching like some of the other Star Wars funny comedy things from over the years. Like I watched the Star Wars Family Guy trilogy. That one's really good. The first Star Wars Family Guy specifically is very, very good. I watched the Star Wars Robot Chicken special.
Robot Chicken.
That one was really good because that actually had George Lucas as a guest star. Like he was actually himself on that.
Really?
Yep, it was actually George on that because George and Seth Green were like friends or whatever.
Oh,
so
yeah.
George was actually on that because you got to think that was made in like 2005 or 6, like it was way back. So you have that, and then also like over the years. Like another great Star Wars like comedy, not directly Star Wars, is like the Spaceballs movie. Like that movie's hilarious, and I watched that just because like it's one of my favorite like just little comedy movies, and it's just a classic. And Bill Pullman, you gotta love him. Like he's always great, and that entire movie's just a lot of fun because like it makes fun of the Star Wars things. Like when Spaceballs came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
For example, there's a scene where instead of Yoda, the guy's name's Yogurt. But there's a scene like he's going over all the merchandising. He's like he takes him underground into his lair, and he's like, this is what it's all about: merchandising, Spaceballs, the lunchbox, Spaceballs, this, Spaceballs, that, Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids love this one, like all this stuff, like and it's making fun of how George Lucas did the merchandising, like heavy merchandising push in the 80s. And like I love that type of comedy because it's funny, it fits, and and I don't take it personally though. That's the problem like with a lot of like the talk online. is like people can't just look at comedy anymore. You know, I love it. Like, you know, Milton, when you share like some funny comedic like posts or reels on Instagram, those are always so funny. It's like I don't look at them and like take them personally. It's like, hey, they're a good laugh, but like, you know, too many people online like take a lot of these things personally, and I'm like, guys, just like you, to me, you should be able to laugh about something you really love, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because what other franchise has a spoof movie based on the franchise, right? As a satire. Like, you
Yeah.
know, Star Wars got huge when somebody decided, hey, let's make a movie based off of Star Wars. And there's actually several movies because then you have like fanboys, right? There's like so many times in Star Wars. And we could do a whole episode on Star Wars detours. That's
Yeah.
like 50 something episodes that never actually came out. They're done. They're finished. And actually somebody leaked one of them like a year or two ago. So it's like, I don't know, one of these days I'm like waiting for them to just drop on Disney Plus, you know, maybe with like a gap of time between shows, like, we'll just start piecemealing out the detours episodes. Who knows?
Yeah, I love that type of stuff. Like, you know, when I see like funny, you know, Instagram reels, like Star Wars reels, like I'll send them to Milton on Instagram or my cousin just because they're great. Or like, you know, there's like there's one I always see of the Eagles shared. I shared it to Milton before. It's like it's like a scene from SpongeBob, and it's when they're pushing the whole city, going push, and like, you know, it's memeing how the Eagles go and just push Jalen Hurts for like 1 yard when they do the tush push.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I just love I love like funny comedy things like that, but it's like, you know, you should be able to like laugh and poke fun at stuff you enjoy. Like, you know, I don't have to like get into some camp like, oh, I need to defend this for this weird reason. Like, just enjoy it. It's comedy. Like, that's the point. It's comedy. So yeah, that was kind of like my little thing online, like where it was like, hey guys, come on, like it's comedy. Let's laugh.
Oh man, oh man. What about you, Milton? Have you had any kind of cool adventures, anything and that place you go to as far as your figures, games? What's the last retro game you got? Have you got anything new?
I mean, like Star Wars related games.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was probably one of the most recent games for the Super Nintendo, but that was like months ago, I think, when I
Oh,
got
okay.
that. I was looking for it, but I mean, I guess for my weekend Star Wars lately, it hasn't really been video games, just because I've been busy and been sick and stuff sometime, but been more like audiobooks and just stuff on
Cool.
YouTube. So most recently, I watched the Clone Wars series from 2003,
Yeah.
the
Love it.
original animated one. I went back and watched some of that,
Yep.
which it still holds up.
Oh yeah.
And then you know, I'm a big audiobook guy, so I went back and listened to hold on one second. Catch this ball. Oh, I'm watching the Eagles game at the same time, guys, so that's why. Um, anyways, I went back and re-listened to the Attack of the Clones audiobook,
Interesting.
and
Oh, nice.
that book's really good. Like, I mean, I know people have mixed reviews about that
Okay.
movie, but the book itself is pretty damn good. Like, I legit listened to the whole, I think it's 10 hours worth, because I went to Ocean City for the one day
Okay.
or for the weekend for my brother's bachelor party. I listened about half of it on the way down there and half of it up. And it held up. Like, it's such a good book. There's so many more significant details that I
Oh.
didn't realize
Yeah.
that was in that book. And I was like, okay, especially like they really develop Shmi Skywalker's character a lot more, especially in the first like chapter of the book. It's about her and how she was living with Klieg, how her relationship with Owen was pretty close. Like Owen saw her as a mother. So I
Oh.
didn't realize that. So the book expands upon that. So and obviously whenever she gets kidnapped by the Tusken Raiders, that's a brutal scene. How they show how Klieg gets his leg cut off.
Hmm.
Like it's crazy. So I'm like,
Oh
okay, this
wow.
book is actually legit. So if you have the chance, you know, go back and listen to the Attack of the Clones
Yeah.
book. It holds up and it makes the movie. It makes you appreciate probably the movie more if you get more of that context.
Yeah, that's what I think the Last Jedi novelization by Jason Fry. I think it was Ray Carson that did the Rise of Skywalker. Like both of those, and even Rogue One with Alexander Freed, like all those current modern novelizations for the current movies are all really well done because, like Milton, you were saying, like they introduce like different things we didn't see in the movie flesh out the characters, get into characters' heads a bit more to just give you a little bit more context for certain situations, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Yeah, no, Attack on the Clones. Dude, I'd never hear anybody talking about that novelization, so that's pretty cool. It's usually
It was definitely worth the listen. I mean, because to me, I was like, let me just listen to something I haven't listened to in a while.
yeah.
And I was putting it on, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how good this book was.
Is that Mark
So,
Thompson by any chance?
huh?
Is that Mark Thompson
Is it Mark?
Thompson
Yeah,
narrating?
Mark Thompson. I think it's Mark Thompson. Actually, I'll look right now because I have it all in front of me.
Yeah,
It is. She's in my phone. Give me a second.
that's
So I just put it
funny.
on there a couple weeks ago. So
That's
I want to say
yeah.
it is Mark Thompson that reads the narration of it. Because I didn't realize how good. Like it sounds really good. It sounds like
Mhm.
I'll say so. R.A. Salvatore is the
Oh, wow,
author.
he's a big fantasy writer. He did the Drizzt, and he also
Mhm.
did
Yeah,
Vector Prime.
Oh,
right.
dang.
And Mark Thompson does
Yeah.
narrate it.
Oh yeah, and quick
Um,
shout out to Mark Thompson. Ran into him again at Comic-Con. He's one of the cool guys out there, man. I mean, he's hanging out there with the fans. Like he was in full Jedi garb, and
I
he
saw
was
that on his Twitter.
yeah, he was in full Jedi garb, and like Matthew from Iron Can, we were doing some content out there, and we were recording next to a battle droid. Like no big deal. We were in the Rebel Legion area where they have all the cool Rebel Legion folk and like the different standees and stuff like that. And he just says, "Oh, give me a second," and I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever." He probably went to the restroom or something. Look back, and he's just chatting with Mark Thompson. So then I walk up and I'm just like in the conversation with, and then he's like, "Oh yeah," like I said, I took his picture for him with Mark Thompson. But yeah, he's like a really down to earth dude, and he'll never like shove you away. Like he'll sit there and have a conversation with you for like 10 minutes. Like he's really
Yeah.
genuine dude, really cool. So yeah, he's
Well,
awesome.
oh yeah, Mark Thompson's really cool. Like, I mean, I talked about it before, a few months ago on our podcast when I was listening to the first the Heir to the Empire book. It was funny. He was like messing with me
Yep.
on Twitter because like I
Yeah,
mentioned
you're
him on
telling me.
Twitter and was like, "Oh, he did a great job," and blah blah blah. And then I tweeted again. I was like, "Holy crap, Mark Thompson like liked my tweets," and he went through and like spam like 20 of my tweets. I was like, "Okay, dude."
Whoa, yeah, and it's
um,
coming from his background, right? He doesn't get a lot of engagement, I'm sure, from like it's a solitary thing, right? Recording novels and stuff. Like he's probably got I don't know what his situation is, but a lot of these people these days have like a recording booth in their house. And it's very solitary. Like you might have like somebody on the other end, a producer being like, "Okay, maybe say outline again or something." But other than that, it's very solitary. Um, so for him, it's probably really nice to actually get out there and just interact with people and be like, "Yes, there's socialization with other people, the fans, and all this kind of stuff, and I can get on the same level as them." So, yeah, cool. Great shout out to him. I have a whole bunch of content, by the way, from New York Comic Con on the channel. I have a couple videos, a couple recaps, stuff like that. So, and check out the
oh
Star
yeah.
Wars Underworld Network. Those guys do a really good work over there. We had a couple crossover things recording wise from New York Comic Con over there as well. Might as well just run through the housekeeping while I'm at it. So we are available, Outer Rim Transmission, on any podcast app of your choice, whether it be Google, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Spotify. Go ahead, give us a listen, and do give us a rating. 5 would be nice so we can spread the positive Star Wars community around the globe. Also, we are available on YouTube. We are going to be back to our normal recording schedule at 7 p.m. on Sundays, unwinding your weekend, getting ready for the next week. So go ahead, interact with us. You can chat with us in our live chat room every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Running through the releases this week, we have the continuation of the hyperspace stories. This one is based off the Bad Batch. Really fun episode issue there. This one is issue number 10. We also have Star Wars issue number 40, pushing forward the storyline of Dark Droids. I have my reviews on the channel right now, as well as the crossover where I'm always a part of the Ion Cannon Tractor Beam with Matthew, where we break down the week's issues in much greater detail in like a shorter 30 to 40 minute podcast every week. So go ahead, check that out. Let us know what you think. We love to also have you guys interacting live, having a good time with the paper side of things. All right. With all that being said and out of the way, we're going to get to news story number 1 for the week. Now, Ben, you brought this up to my attention. This is really cool. So, Columbia, the clothing brand, as well as other things they support, NASCAR and Star Wars, they joined forces. They put out a really cool car that is customized for NASCAR. Even the actual uniform of Bubba Wallace, the driver, looks like an X-wing driver. He's got a helmet that looks like an X-wing pilot helmet, and he was welcomed by none other than Red 5 himself, Mark Hamill. So it's cool seeing Mark Hamill in the spotlight for a change. I really dug this. Ben, I know you brought this up to my attention. What do you think about this whole promotion here?
Oh yeah, I thought it was really cool. Like, it was totally unexpected. Like, I was just scrolling through Instagram, and I thought it was like an old, I thought it was an old promo at first, because Instagram people post reels of anything.
Yeah.
So it could have been, from whenever. And I looked into it, and like Columbia Sportswear had literally posted it like 18 hours prior to me looking. I was like, oh, whoa, this is actually a new campaign. So like, yeah, so like Bubba Wallace, like, I guess like partnered with them and Mark Hamill. And of course, Mark Hamill was like the guest on there to like do that Star Wars spot. And, this weekend, I guess I didn't, I'm not any NASCAR fan. I probably watched 1 minute of it in my lifetime, but like, they had the Phoenix race in Phoenix this weekend, and he was supposed to be debuting that car in uniform in the race. So like, presumably by now he'd have raced in that race with that car and everything. So it's cool that they did that, and I really like, that's something for like our listeners to and viewers to look out for. Is obviously, like, if you're a NASCAR fan, cool, like keep an eye out for that, because like Columbia might do more of this throughout the year with Bubba Wallace, because it might be like a multi-race deal or something with him. But when it comes to Columbia specifically, keep an eye out, because they're the brand that always does really cool Star Wars gear, like really cool Star Wars branded gear. Like back when the sequel trilogy was going on for 7, 8, and 9, they made exclusive merch for those movies, but they did them in a way, like, I mean, it wasn't really for those movies, because the gear was from like, the original trilogy for the most part. I mean, there was like for example, there was, it was just branded, they were selling it during the sequel trilogy, but it was just, typical, like, hey, rehashing original trilogy stuff. But like, for example, when The Force Awakens came out, Columbia released a Hoth Han Solo parka, like replica parka. Yeah. And instead of it being just like a little costume chintzy type thing, it was a legit parka with like down wool and everything. Like, you could actually wear it in like, up to like -30-degree weather or something. Like, it was a legit parka. So, but it was designed like the Echo base one, so it has like the little patch and all that stuff, like, his wrist comm and everything. What? And it came with like the gloves. It came with like the whatever the fur thing is that goes around your face and hood. It came with that and with the goggles and everything. What? Like, and it was like, it was like $600, but Columbia does a lot of special like gear like that. Like, they had Han's parka. They had, I remember during, it was either 8 or 9, they had like Luke's X-Wing jacket. It was like designed, it literally looked just like an X-Wing jacket, but it was for like it was like a spring type jacket or something. Okay. So like, Columbia's done different things like that over the years, in partnership with Star Wars. And like, the good thing with their brand is like, they're just a good, solid brand, like, they're not like an A+ brand, but they're like a B+, A-, like, they're solid on their products. So it's really cool that they like partnered with Star Wars for like those things. And then of course now, literally when I saw that thing with Bubba Wallace and that it was from Columbia, I was like, oh yeah, that's no surprise, because Columbia has like a history with Star Wars. And like, I haven't really dug into it specifically, but I wonder if they've had like a longer history, like going back even like say in the Lucas era at some point, because it's interesting that they've, out of all the brands, Columbia is the brand that's partnered with them quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it brings me up to having Star Wars but integrated in like functional items, right? Yep. This is cool. I had this old coat from Express that I bought back in college because it looked just like Han Solo's parka from Empire Strikes Back. So I'm like, I was like, I already have one of those. I don't need to spend $600. But then when you're telling me it comes with the gloves and the goggles, and then I was
Yep.
like, oh yeah, that's 5 levels higher than what I have here. But yeah, no, that's cool having functional Star Wars items, tying in to something. But watching this video kind of, I think we were talking about this, Ben, it brought a little bit of a wave of nostalgia because man, oh man, in the lead up to Force Awakens, we got so many videos like this, right? Where it's J.J. Abrams who's on the set and he's promoting Wish Foundation or one of those like, foundations that's a charity or something that's going to support, people. Or whatever. And it was cool because like we get several of those. One of them he's in front of an X-Wing, another one he's got Baba Joe, that little creature thing on the back, and it was like that was the first time we've seen an alien from Force Awakens, Neil Scannion's creation. It's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, right? So there's a lot of things like that we just haven't gotten. So it's kind of like, oh, we're going back to the old days. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Like I said, at first I thought it was an old video at first, and then it was like, oh no, that was posted 18 hours ago. So it's cool that like they're still doing that type of stuff. And also, even though like of course like Mark Hamill said comments otherwise, a few months ago, but like it makes me wonder, if Mark's still doing Star Wars stuff like this, like will he be a Force ghost in the Daisy Ridley movie? Like that's what I wonder, because it's like, she's dealing with a bunch of Jedi stuff by the sounds of it from the little bits that are out there. So it's just like, it makes me wonder if they're going to bring Mark back to do like a Jedi like guidance type thing for her.
Yeah, there's, oh my gosh, I can't wait for that movie. I'm really hoping and hopeful for the actors that they get a fair deal. SAG-AFTRA. Last we
Yep.
heard, they're getting real close. There's a final deal from the studios. If they don't accept this, things could get a catastrophe for both parties on that one, because that would mean that there's no movies going to be made for like well after next summer at that point. So we're crossing our fingers here. Outer Rim Transmission. We support all the actors. We want them to deal with the AI situation. That's no good. Residual situation, getting paid what they're due for their streaming rights and all that. So hopefully that goes through in the next day or two. But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. This is the kind of stuff we're getting while we're kind of Lucasfilm's on a lifeline right now. Just like, we're in limbo. We can't really say much else with movies or TV right now. So let's at least put out these cool little videos that cross promote. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's really cool that like, we've gotten little things like this, and it just makes you wonder, what could be like coming up next. Like, we have this thing with Mark Hamill, so it's like, who knows, maybe we get like another random like pop up with someone else, like Daisy Ridley like doing something with like a food company, or like there could be anything really.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just don't ever know when it comes to Star Wars, just because it's like, what it's been recorded already, and that could be, potentially posted.
Yeah. So let's talk about stuff that isn't blocked by a strike. So video games is one of those things. Unless you're a video game actor that is also on SAG, like unfortunately, I think her name is Humberly. That is the main character. She's the actress for the main character in Star Wars Outlaws. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to go to Comic-Con because she literally couldn't talk. So she wasn't there. But anyway, we're going to talk about some video games here. So we got a couple of things interesting enough. We got Star Wars Hunters. Remember that game? Yeah, that mobile game I played back in 2022 at Star Wars. No, it wasn't even 2020. I think it was 2021. No, it was 2022. It was in Anaheim. I played this game on a phone. It's going to be out on Switch. Well, they showed us there's a behind-the-scenes video for how they created a Trandoshan combatant named Charl. It's cool. As a big game enthusiast, I really like the design process when it comes to games, and especially when they give us, any studio gives us a glimpse behind the work it goes into, designing a character, picking different choices of the aesthetics, and going through selecting a voice actor. And man, oh man, like I don't feel like voice actors are given enough credit, because these people are actors, and I love watching them behind the scenes. Forgive me, I do not know the actor that is playing this character of Char, but man, this guy gets into it. He's really just like basically spitting at the mic, getting into full Trandoshan mode, just body language and everything. I was like, this guy is into it. But yeah, this is just nice because at the end they're like, the game is coming soon. It's like, yes, you've been saying that for like 2 years now. This game is playable in other parts of the world for months on end, but the full release is still availing us. I don't know. But anyway, Ben, I know I just put this up in our notes last minute, but I don't know if you have anything to say about this one.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it comes out soon, but coming soon to them so far has been like you said, maybe 2 years. So maybe coming soon, we might have it by 2025. At that logic. But no, like all jokes aside, like I hope it comes out soon. Hopefully it's good. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I just hope it's a good game, or a good entertaining game, because Star Wars just needs something, in my opinion, to like be out there playing. Like, I've seeing, like, for example, seeing all this hype about Fortnite, original Fortnite's back. So like, I wish Star Wars had a game like that. Like Hunters probably isn't going to turn out to be this game since it's not like on Xbox and stuff. But like,
Yeah,
maybe,
choice, by the way.
like maybe if we get like a game, like just like if Star Wars had a game like a Fortnite, where it would be a free to play game where anybody could play it, I would love that. Like what do you call them? Live service games where they just like constantly add stuff into the game, like, a new season, like, and all this stuff. Like, it would be so much fun if Star Wars would do something along those lines. Hopefully Hunters like gets going really good. But I'm hoping for like the next, like, I hope we eventually get to that type of game, like a Fortnite type deal.
Here's the thing. It seems like
I think Battlefront could have been that if they would have kept it up.
That. They were aiming for it to be, and they just never landed after the debacle with the microtransactions. But with Hunters, and I think that's the one thing that's holding it back, from what I've heard from somebody, is the reason why it's taken so long is they're still trying to figure out how to monetize the game. Because Star Wars has really bad notoriety. They're very notorious for, like, the reason why I stopped playing Galaxy of Heroes is I can't progress the game without having to spend $5 every other day. It's like ridiculous. And I think Star Wars would have learned a lesson from Battlefront. Like, maybe just don't monetize so aggressively. I don't know. But apparently that's what Hunters is really trying to crack the code on. Like, how do we get this game to survive for multiple years, but it being a free game? I don't know. But it's interesting because I think the general consensus for a lot of people is Fortnite, Epic Games just laid off several hundred employees. The market for these battle royale games like Apex Legends, like Call of Duty, like Fortnite is actually declining. It seems like the trend is most people rather have shorter experiences where they're not limited to one death. And so in that case, Hunters might actually be a trendsetter, at least on the better side of things, because it's not a battle royale. It's an arena shooter, which is actually really good for games like Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, I think it's season 5 or 6 just came out a couple weeks ago. It's on fire. People are loving it. People are going back to Halo like crazy right now because they fixed a lot of things that were problems initially. And so if Hunters can somehow pull off, they might actually be ahead of the game. People want to just go into a game for 5 to 10 minutes and then leave, right? The battle royales tend to be longer. You tend to be in there for 30, 40, sometimes even 50 minutes, depending on the game, right? So I think it actually might be to their benefit that they chose this kind of game design. We'll see. They still should have had Battlefront 2 going to this day. And that would have been I would have liked to see a 2017 Battlefront 2 continue to 2024 or something like that. Like, what would it look like today if they continued? Because the last thing they did was Clone Wars. I'm sure they would have done like Mandalorian, some of the movie. Well, they did the movies, but like some of the other things, right? Obi-Wan.
Well, I mean, look at how long Grand Theft Auto's been going on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Grand Theft Auto is like still going, and that game hasn't came out in years. And it's like, I wish that would have been so nice if Battlefront would have been like that game for us, for Star Wars, like, constant updates, like a new season, a new whatever, like every, 90 days or however many days, like, it would be really fun
Oh
having
yeah.
something like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look at Blizzard Entertainment, and say what you will, it doesn't have the best reputation. It seems like things went south once Activision bought them, and now they're owned by Xbox. So hopefully things turn around. But like they have some mobile games that are really good. Like Hearthstone is a really great game that you don't feel like you're being aggressively throwing microtransactions your way. You can earn everything just playing and not playing for hours to get a certain thing that somebody could spend $2 for. They just released Warcraft Rumble, which I've been playing a lot. The other day they released that. It's very nice. It's a little strategy game. Again, you don't have to spend a ton of money, and you get like a nice story in there for nothing. So there's examples of free to play games that actually are successful, that don't cost you an arm and a leg, and they can gather a lot of people to play them. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
I did these stories a little bit out of order, so I'm going to backtrack to a slightly different topic. This just relates to Star Wars in general. So there's Star Wars Dawn of Rebellion. It's a DK source book. It's going to be a visual guide like we haven't gotten since Rise of Skywalker, which is a big deal. And this one's going to have Bad Batch information. It's going to have Andor information. It's going to have Obi-Wan information. So like all the Dark Time stuff basically is in this book. So I'm super excited. Don't ask me why Disney and Lucasfilm decided to put this out into the UK a month before releasing in America. So I'm a little bit mad about that, obviously. But what came out of it is an updated 2023 galaxy map. So I found this was really interesting because they had given one for Star Wars Timelines book as a promotion at Star Wars Celebration 2022. They were giving out posters for it. I thought it was going to be included in the book, and then to my chagrin, it was never in the book, and I was a little bit mad about that. But yes, they have somebody uploaded a high res image from the book, and yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna actually I think I could probably just put this on the screen here for a second for people to check out, if I can actually find.
When you finish that picture, I like looking at those maps. I'll be honest with you because I've always been intrigued with the different planets. So
Oh yeah,
and this is what part of my frustrations I think I have with the most recent movies is like we have all these planets that are on that map and we only get like a glimpse of like what's even out there. So because everything kind of looks the same all the time.
there we go.
So I'm hoping like we know there's a whole bunch of planets out there. So I wish we get more. This is the last play of the game, so we need to win. Give me a second. We
Yeah, I'm
better get
locked
a stop.
into
Oh, it's a
Milton.
flag?
Flag, yeah.
Oh,
Chris,
listen,
it's
this is
coming
live,
down to
people. I'm
the
just
the
saying.
final play.
Literally
Oh
the last
man.
play of the game, Chris. Like,
Well, anyway, I will
all right, Chris, literally last play of the game. Dallas got the ball. But nah, like for real though. So like, I think them having those maps are pretty dope because it's nice to have like what the galaxy look like, what it could be potentially when they expand it. I just wish the films would then take that map and say, okay, we have 5, 6, 7, or 8 planets that we've never explored. Let's go to those planets.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of planets on here for me that are just I've never even heard of that planet before, right? Like it's interesting. Like let me see. Like Alzok 3 in the Outer Rim. Where the hell is that from? Where's Lefet from in the Outer Rim? And from what I hear, where's Pagodon? You know, there's so many. There's the most interesting planet is from the Outer Rim called RTK 111. There's another planet called Cinta in the expansion region, and that's the thing, right? With a good buddy of mine, Dan Grievous, over there from Bulgaria. He's on YouTube, makes awesome videos. A friend of mine, he was saying, why are all the stories always in the Outer Rim? And I was like, he's got a really good point. I mean, you look at the regions, you got the Mid Rim, you got the colonies, you got the expansion region. When's the last time any of us has heard about a story in the expansion region or whatever the hell that even means? You know what I mean? So it's like always unknown regions, always the Outer Rim, but you got the Inner Rim too, the core, obviously where everything started from and expanded outward from. But yeah, there's a lot. There's another planet, Akvetna. It's like there's so many planets here, and I think one of the High Republic authors said, "Oh yeah, there's like a couple of these planets are from Phase 3 of the High Republic." So I'm like, "Oh, all right, I'll be seeing those very soon." With Phase 3 in the midst the beginning right now. So
Yeah, I agree. Like I agree with both of you guys when it comes to these maps though. Like it's cool like seeing all the different planets that are out there. Like you said, Chris, like there's so many unknown planets like we haven't seen on screen or really heard of in the books even. So it's cool just like getting like that big expanse, and it lets you kind of like get the mental note of like, okay, this is here, that's there, what's nearby, who could be nearby on this planet at this time, like because if it's during like say the like the High Republic, if there's like a planet that's near Coruscant or whatever, like maybe that means Yoda could be nearby if the planet's close by, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like so like it's cool getting those type of things. Like I've always been fascinated by those types of maps, like back in the day, like I remember seeing old like Star Wars maps from like the old books and things like that. So like it's cool getting to see those, and that kind of like gives me the vibes also of one of my cousins has like a really cool map, obviously not Star Wars related, but it's the Game of Thrones map to like it lays out where all the regions are for Game of Thrones and everything, and that is like such a cool map. And like those type of maps, I don't know, like for like everything Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, whatever, like I just love maps like that because it kind of like gives you a mental note of where things are in the world.
oh yeah, I have the map of Westeros and Essos right above my bed. I've had it since college. It's when I started reading the Game of Thrones book. It was so convenient to just walk over to that poster on the wall when reading the books and be like, oh, this is where this place is. This is where Pentos is. This is where Asai is. This is where Court or whatever the other Quarth is. Like it's really nice having geography that you can physically, tangibly see. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's
nice.
good. We'll be looking forward with great interest to when Dawn of the Rebellion comes out or whatever it's called. But I'm hoping there's just some nice juicy details in there. I'm very curious to why they release this now when there's still another season of Andor to come out. So I guess we'll have a updated 2.0 version soon enough. All right, we waited long enough. We're going to get into our major discussion as the title suggests. But first, the reason why I spawned this discussion is we have a release date for the Dark Forces remaster. It's going to hit shelves on February 28th, 2024. So mark that on your calendars unless Hunters has a surprise launch. This will be the first Star Wars game or the next Star Wars game coming out after Jedi Survivor back in March. So yeah, I'm very excited. I've played through Dark Forces a few times, and I gotta admit it's a little bit rough around the edges, which is why they're making a remaster. So I'm very excited to have this first person shooter, and that's where we're spawning on this discussion here. So it's when you remaster a game, there's always remakes and there's remasters, right? Like I'm actually playing the Dead Space remake right now. Funnily enough, connected to Star Wars. It's made by Motive, who made Squadrons, who made Battlefront 2. It's their next game after the Star Wars games, and basically a remake is when they build a game up from the ground up to invoke feelings of the original game, but having brand new mechanics, engines, and everything else. A remaster is simply like, okay, we're going to update maybe the controls for a new controller versus it being on PC, maybe bump up the 4K resolution, make it widescreen. It's very easier. It's much easier. It's not revamping the entire game. So that's what I mean, remaster, because if you look, and according to one of our viewers here, Attila the Finster, when will Rogue Squadron 2 and 3 come to Steam? So that's what I mean. There's a lot of games out there that are not available to play on the main systems, and that's what I want to get into today. Is like, oh, what games maybe kind of slipped between the cracks? Why aren't they? We don't know why they haven't been released on a current system or even a last gen system.
Well, I think one game to throw out there for our viewers and listeners, like, if you're into like these sci-fi type games and fantasy type games, a really good game to consider playing as like a remaster to like get an idea of like what a remaster could look like is go play Halo 2 on on Xbox, on next gen Xbox, because Chris, you've probably played it before, and it's so cool because like I played through Halo 2 obviously for like the nostalgia, because that's like arguably my most favorite game ever, but I love it because when you go through, I think it's if you press select, what happens is you can toggle the remaster graphics or the old graphics. So like I can be sitting here looking at like the group of Covenant warriors across from me, and like they look beautiful in the remaster, and you press select, and then it flips. It literally is like a light switch. It flips it to where it's the old graphics from 2005.
Oh yeah,
or 2004, and
love
it's
it.
so cool. Like that's one of my favorite things. Like I loved going back and playing through the Halo 2 because no matter where I walked, I was just constantly
Yeah.
toggling the graphics.
Yeah.
Like because it's like, oh, I want to see. Like one of the best parts, I'm sure you noticed it, Chris, when you played that, is like when you look out into space, like you look at the ships flying. The old version, it's like there's barely any details, and then you
Okay.
toggle it, and you can see all these stars and the fire from the ship
Oh.
and all this stuff. Like, and it's so cool seeing like what a remaster can do for a game, because like Halo 2 is proof you can take a game from 15 years ago and make it look really nice and have a good time with it. So like there's plenty of good Star Wars options we can get into and dive into. And I think for me, like I think the most underrated Star Wars game by a mile, I've been shouting it on this podcast since we started, is the Obi-Wan video game.
Yeah.
Like to me, that game needs a remaster, especially now that there's an Obi-Wan show out. So maybe there's a little more like buzz about the Kenobi character in general. And like, I'm sure you both have played Kenobi before back in the day, but like, the Obi-Wan game, you don't start as Obi-Wan in Phantom Menace. You start as Obi-Wan like on the streets of Coruscant in the
really?
underworld, actually. In
Really?
the underworld. Yeah, it's like, because it's like in the underworld, like it's legit like in like a sketchy part of town. Like, when you're walking through, it's like dark and seedy, and like, you're walking through, and you're walking by like, sketchy looking criminals, like, sitting around like, bonfires and stuff, and like back alleys and everything. Like it's really cool. And like that game would be such a good game because it's like a prequel to Phantom Menace, because you don't even get to the events of Phantom Menace until you're like 70% of the way through the game or so, 60% of the way, like at minimum 60% of the way through the game. So like, you can go through, and like they could remaster that game so much, because the saber mechanics, that was like one of the first of its kind, like saber mechanics using the joystick instead of just spamming
that's
X,
cool.
A, and
That
B,
was
and
cool.
Y. Like it's such a good game, I think, for a remaster. And with today's graphics, like you can make that game look really nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm playing through it now. Self-plug on my own channel. I guess it's just not a plug at that point, but I'm playing through Jedi Survivor, a new game plus on Jedi Master mode, whatever. And it's just, I keep saying to myself, this is the best freaking lightsaber combat you'll ever see in a game. Period. But I mean, I go back to other games like Obi-Wan, like the next game, which I would love to see get remastered, and that's Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. Put the same guys on the game, darn it. You got Respawn. They're great with first-person shooters. You can have that element in the beginning of the game, have them clean up the gunplay a little bit, and then just do the straight-up engine from Jedi Survivor in the Kyle Katarn gets the lightsaber moment with Luke Skywalker fighting Dark Troopers. That's all you need. Just a little quick update. I don't know. It's funny because Xbox owns Raven Software now, so they literally could just reboot the game. They're not going to be tied to doing a Call of Duty game every other year like they've been doing for the last 10 years as a support studio. So it's like, all right, sky's the limit for that. So yeah, that's my pick. But I mean, I go back to our commenter who was saying about Rogue Squadron. I completely forgot that Rogue Leader wasn't on there.
Yep.
Oh, and he's also saying Attila the Finister is saying Jango Fett's game come to Steam. Yeah, that's
Bounty Hunter.
Bounty Hunter.
Oh, Bounty
my
Hunter.
gosh.
I have that.
Yeah, Milton has that. Milton, you could talk about that
I have
one.
that on PS2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, look, you guys already know me and my viewpoint on current Star Wars games. So I'm glad we're doing this episode. I mean, like, I feel like if you take all the old games, and this is what I tell people all the time, like, I know we're all in our 30s here, and a lot of young heads who like video games probably get annoyed with me when I say, man, this new shit, I don't mess with it, because a lot of it is like it's very redundant, and it's kind of like, it's you have to micro transition like you mentioned, microtransactions. It's multiple combinations and add-ons. I'm like, I don't need all that. I want a game that's I can continue to keep playing, and go back to play it again to learn more stuff about it. Like these new ways of doing it is weird to me. But like, if you had to go back and look at old Star Wars games, you already know I'll mess with the Phantom Menace from PlayStation.
Oh yeah,
They need to
love that
They
game.
need to do that.
redo that game because it's fire. Because that's just as good as Obi-Wan. Because Obi-Wan on Xbox, and I never was an Xbox guy, but I remember getting an Xbox because of Obi-Wan's game.
Yep.
And then speaking of like another like Xbox game, the Clone Wars. Remember that one?
I was gonna say that one. You took mine.
But I'm dead ass because I mean that game. I remember how hyped I was for that because my older sister's friend had an Xbox, and I remember like asking her to I'm like, can you ask your friend to let me borrow his Xbox to play that game? And she's like, sure. Like he let me borrow it for like a week, and I played it every night, and it was so good. And I honestly thought the ending to that game was perfect. Because I'm like, oh my god, is this going to lead into the movie? Because I'm thinking, I mean, again, I'm like a teenager. But if you remaster that game, I'm buying it. They never really made an episode 2 game. It's always been like Game Boy and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had it on Nintendo DS. You play as Anakin Skywalker. You're doing the side scrolling. You're jumping around on speeders on Coruscant.
I never played that one much, but I think they need to probably remake that into an actual game for like a major system. Obviously, episode 3, I still play that till this day. I think it's still nice on PS2. However, I would take it for an updated version. Facts. Like,
I think they updated it, didn't they, Ben? Don't they have it available on the Xbox store?
It might have been remastered because it's available on Xbox now. My cousin played through it a few months ago.
I think it's just
or what was it, re-release? Or they might have updated it. I'm not sure.
I don't know if they updated it because I mean I remember my boy. I think he has it on Xbox or something. And I think it's the same. I think the graphics might be like slightly sharper, but I mean, it don't matter. The game still holds up. God, I can just keep on listing them. Like Force Unleashed is still good, but if you remaster that, I'll play it. Obviously, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, they've been talking about doing that for a while now. We haven't done it yet. Do we know what's going on with that game?
We should have had the game this year. Like, I think this was the coming out party for KOTOR was 2023 because I think they announced it in 2020. And then they changed developers like 2 times and it's stuck in development hell. So I don't even know if that thing's ever going to come out.
Yeah, like that's why. But like you got games like that, like, and I'm sure people who are Star Wars fans like us that are hardcore sweaties like that, like you grew up playing those the Lucas Art days get video games.
Yeah.
Lucas Art games. Any of we mentioned tonight, you can remake them and we're buying them. I guarantee you, if anybody in the chat said, "Oh, I remember the Lucas Art days." If they list X, Y, and Z, I guarantee you we're buying them because those games were so good and so replayable.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. Like now, to me nowadays, like I hear about the new Star Wars games that come out, but I never really play with them much often because I'm just like, it's whatever to me. Like it's just too much extra stuff they add to it. You kind of gotta get for the game. No, let me buy the game one time and let me just try to work through it.
Well, that's a good thing about Jedi series is there's nothing extra. It's like you buy the game, you get the whole story, and that's it.
All right. Cool. Because I ain't trying to mess with like a whole bunch of. That's why I didn't mess with Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 1 because Battlefront 1 tried that trash and I was like, I ain't doing it.
We got somebody in the comment section that's literally saying the same thing to Rob D. I played Star Wars games so much when I was younger. I played Star Wars Battlefront 2015 for all of 2 hours and never touched it again. I think a lot of that could be contributed.
Exactly.
There was no single player in that game.
Is that he's talking about the first Battlefront game?
Yeah,
that came out
2015.
With straight ass. I legit bought that game, took it back to GameStop the next day. I said, "Can I get my money back?" And they did.
Well, because it was only multiplayer. It was weird.
It was so bad because there was no story or nothing.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm not playing.
Well, Milton, that's a good little segue to. I think they should redo or remaster the original Battlefront 1 and 2 games, the actual really good games, because like I'll go on and on about it, but the campaign from Battlefront 2, 2005, which it's hilarious. That game, or 2004, that game came out like 6 months before Revenge of the Sith, so you could get the events of Revenge of the Sith 6 months in advance, which is hilarious. But they the campaign of I think it's actually called Rise of the Empire, and it's so good because the basis of the storyline, and I'm sure you've seen it before too, Milton, like scrolling through Instagram, people still reuse little clips from that because it's actually Tamara Morrison as a clone trooper. You're playing as him, and you're basically you start at Attack of the Clones, you start at like the Battle of Geonosis, and you work your way through all the movies up to the Battle of Endor, and you're actually playing as, Tamara Morrison's clone trooper all throughout the way. And it's cool because like they actually have Tamaru's narrating and everything, and it's cool because like they make it seem like the clone troopers have a little bit of like heart and all that stuff, like when they get Order 66, like there's
Right.
the great level. You have the entire temple invasion with the clone troopers
Yeah.
against Jedi Masters and things. And it's cool because like the transitions and everything, I'm sure you remember it, Milton, like the transitions, you have like Tamara Morrison narrating and he's like, luckily we had our visors on because, we didn't want our Jedi Masters to like see our face of like regret of what we were about to do. So it's like cool, like, getting the clone troopers like emotions and stuff in that game. And it's like, it's cool, like the way like the game progresses, because you go from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith, like and like some of the game mechanics on there, it's like you're taking over the temple, and then they're all of a sudden they're like Lord Vader has arrived in his shuttle, prepare to like prepare for him, and like so you have to take over some command posts, and then eventually once you do it, you have to like hit a button on the directional pad, and it'll say spawn as Darth Vader, and you press it, and then boom, you're Anakin in the temple. And it's like,
Yeah, no, 'cause I remember you could do that with the Jedis. Like that was cool. You can go from like the troopers to the Jedis for certain things.
Wow.
Which again, I never was a big like war game fan except for the Star Wars ones, because I was like, okay, just something about them was just so different. I mean, I can if I didn't have a real job and someone who had to pay me to play games, I'd play the old Star Wars games. Like I just love playing them. I still go back and play. The Force Unleashed when I get an opportunity. I still go back and play. I mean, you guys know I still play Super Nintendo. I love, hell, if they remastered Super Star Wars,
seriously,
Super Empire, Super Return of the Jedi, make those modern, oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
Like
I would buy a Switch for those.
Imagine,
Imagine,
I know we're talking about remasters, but imagine if they actually went in and like made like polygonal versions of those people. They don't have to necessarily make them like super articulated or super realistic. Make them like comic booky-esque, but like polygonal, like Super Mario, like the newer Super Mario games. Like they just came out with Super Mario Wonder. Imagine if they had like a Star Wars on that level, because those games still work. That game's selling like gangbusters. It's getting like crazy good scores all over the industry. Just do that with Star Wars. I mean, that's a big gap we haven't seen, is a side-scrolling Star Wars game.
Even Chris, even if they modernize it, like what's that new game that just came out? The new RoboCop game. It's called RoboCop Rogue City.
Oh yeah.
I might get that when I eventually get a PS5. But like, or even really like the Spider-Man games or whatnot, or even I guess the Star Wars games that are coming out. I will say those Jedi ones you mentioned have been very intriguing. But if they made the movies, and made it like those models, I'd play them, because I think obviously they would expand upon them, but then also too, I think they would keep it simple enough to where like true fans like myself who played them would like, okay, make it different, but don't be extra in a sense of like being over the top. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, again, imagine playing Super Star Wars and you're on Tatooine 3/4 of the game, trying to work your way, because I mean, really, that's the main part of the movie is Tatooine and then the Death Star. And you go to Yavin for like whatever. Imagine playing those three particular stages on like a modern tech, dude. That'd be fire, dude. Oh my God.
Well, the thing is like
the Death Star run, bro. The trench run.
Oof.
Imagine the trench run with modern day technology, just like the arcade version of the game.
Yeah.
Like,
well, see, like I think the thing I like a lot about those old games, it's like, nowadays, don't get me wrong, like the Jedi games are fine, like they're not like overly complicated. But there are too many games like even some of the shooter games like are just so daunting, because it's like you got to like be like like button slamming, like you have to like know all these different combinations and stuff. And like back then, like the games were so simple, you could just like go and do your combat, go and do your whatever, like those type of things. And I mean, yeah, you have the Super Star Wars games. Like heck, I mean, I know this will never happen, but like go through and why not give us like a retro campaign, Nintendo? Like give us a retro campaign and re-release those 3 games, but then be like, hey, we're gonna complete the saga and do 1, 2, and 3, and then 7, 8, and 9, and do them in that style. Like that would be so much fun. Because
But
people
let me
like
interrupt you.
nostalgia nowadays.
That's what I'm saying. I'm about to go right there. Like people like nostalgia. If you give it, I mean, look, it's like that with sports or entertainment or whatever. Like anyone who has that nostalgic feeling, they don't want to lose their heroes. They don't want to lose what they had growing up as a kid. So if you keep giving us that stuff, like I'm gonna keep buying it. Like I mean, look, there's different version of Jordans. There's a different version of LeBron. Like people are gonna keep buying that stuff because it's nostalgic for them. You feel me?
Hmm.
So like, if you give me an updated version of Super Star Wars, I'm going to buy it. And I was looking at the chat just now, and that Rob D guy asked about the Star Wars trilogy arcade game.
Hmm.
Yeah, Rob, I played that. That's what I'm talking about. These guys heard me talk about that game 100 times. Anytime I go to an arcade, I make a point to find that game because that game is so damn good, and I love doing the Hoth battle,
Oh
and I
yeah.
love doing the trench run because it's
Oh
that
yeah.
fucking fire. And I'm sorry I'm dropping an F bomb, but like, it's that good, bro. Like, it's that good.
Yeah, I mean that's like I did not get a chance to go to play in New York City this time around at Comic-Con, but it's usually one of my rituals is to play that at least once a year at that arcade in
Dude,
Times
I'm telling you,
Square.
man. Like, I've told y'all before. If I'm able to find like if someone can like would sell me the Star Wars Arcade Trilogy Saga game, like I would put that in my house if I could and play it
Yeah.
every day.
I
It would
mean,
not get bored.
that's a classic game. Like we always went to the local arcade here in the mall. Our local mall is pretty much dead now, but back in the day, in the 90s, it was like popping, and there was plenty of like things to do, and like that was my favorite thing. Like I would beg my grandparents to take me to the mall to go play the Star Wars arcade games, and I would literally just use all my tokens or quarters or whatever on the Star. I would sit there the entire time and use everything on that one game, like
Right.
just because those were so much fun. Um, but yeah, I mean, like that's the thing when it comes to Star Wars fans. Like say what you want about you always see people like dogging on nostalgia on social media, like, oh, nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. Like the people that are I'll keep it real here. The people that are dogging on nostalgia are just in denial because at the end of the day they like nostalgia too. Like they're just in denial about it
Exactly.
because the thing is at the end of the day there's always something you're going to look at and go, "Oh, I remember that made me feel good back then, blah 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 blah." Like I still get nostalgic about The Force Awakens sometimes because Chris, like we mentioned before, like the build up, the hype of Star Wars is back. Like, I still get that nostalgic feeling sometimes around this time of year, around November, December. It's like, "Oh man, I remember, you know, how many years ago, like 9 years ago, 10 years ago now, almost like, going into the, standing in line in the theaters with my cousins, getting ready for The Force Awakens, like, and like, our theater attendants like dressed up as Kylo Ren and stuff. So like, you have those type of things. And like Star Wars fans, like they can be in denial about it all they want, but nostalgia is a huge factor with Star Wars. And
No,
like,
absolutely. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong
and,
at all.
and like that's a huge thing for us with this gaming stuff. Like people like and enjoy like nostalgic gaming. Like that's why I went back and played the original Halo trilogy because I love those games. Like it's nostalgia. It brought back fun times. And like with Star Wars, there's so many opportunities. Like you mentioned, Milton, there's the arcade games, the Super Nintendo games, and like so many more. Like a game, like we've talked about the Obi-Wan games, the Battlefront games. Like one game I think that I would enjoy just coming back into, like if they put it on the Xbox store just as like a free download or something, even just as is, would be Masters of Terrascasi, just because it's a
Yep,
button mashing little combo combat game,
that would be a good
just
one.
arena, yeah, just arena fighting, and then like the cool thing about that game is, if spoilers, if anybody hasn't played it in 25 years, but if you beat the game, it actually unlocks another level, and you can fight Mara Jade, and if you beat
What?
her, you unlock her character too. So like it's cool.
No.
Yep,
This
that's
is
a yeah. Oh, if you didn't know that, Chris, yeah, that's a thing about Masters of Terrascasi. If you beat all the levels, like 100% completion, you unlock Mara Jade, and that's like her first like on-screen appearance.
okay, because this is interesting. I don't know. I forget who I was talking to, but they were telling me that Dark Forces 2 has Mara Jade in it.
She might. It's been so long since I played those games. I honestly don't remember.
Because Dark Forces came out in Oh, looks like we lost Milton. Dark Forces came out in 1995,
Oh,
and
so it might have
then,
been, yeah, Dark Forces, I think, was before Terrace Kasi.
but I think Terrace Kasi would be a great get for the Star Wars brand because it's in the zeitgeist now. Remember that name was name dropped during Solo with Kira fighting off the Pike on Kessel.
Yep.
Um, and then it's like, what happens if you get like one of those good Xbox developers that makes Killer Instinct? Oh man, forgive me for the gamers out there. Anyway, that developer, get them to make it, or get the Mortal Kombat developer to make it. You know, that'd be sick. Just having all this characters from all of Star Wars now, right? They had such a smaller net back then in the 90s, but to have the entire sequels, prequels, whatever in there now. Oh
Well,
man.
they could just call it like, I mean, why not just make a game like that? Like take the just the basic groundwork of Masters of Terrace Kasi, like I don't know, put it like Masters of Terrace Kasi, like make it some type of like crossover with the current Star Wars stuff, and like just make it like obviously like just a non-canon thing. And so then you bring in the old characters from that game, you bring in new characters, and just have it be a button mashing like arena combo fighting game. Like because we played it before back in the day, like on PlayStation 1, we played it all the time with my cousins. And like, that was so much fun. Like just going in, battling, like, we pick up a controller and, sit down for 5-8 minutes, whatever it is, just battling each other out. Like, you could unlock all different versions of all the characters. Like you could unlock Luke from episode 4 up to episode 6. You could unlock Leia, even in like the slave Leia garb, which was funny. Like
Yeah.
her weapon was actually like a chain, like so she, like how she killed Jabba.
Right.
Like you have stuff like that. You have Vader you could unlock with like a busted off helmet.
Oh,
You could unlock, like I said, you can unlock Mara Jade if you beat the entire game. So like you
jeez.
have those type of things, and I think something like that would be really good for the Star Wars fandom or like online gaming sphere. Um, Even just some of the basic stuff, we've seen it. I'm not, I think I've heard you talk about it before, Milton. Like, remember playing like Mario Kart back in the day. Like, why not like introduce some type of like a remaster of like the pod racing game? Because people
Yeah.
get into like, because you see like tons of college kids like playing Mario Kart, like just hopping in and playing Mario Kart, racing around and stuff. Like, why can't that be Star Wars Pod Racer?
I was
Like,
playing
I would
Pod
I would
Racer.
love for it to be that.
Yeah, I was playing Pod
Yeah.
Racer. They remastered it a little bit. I don't know if it's a technical remaster, but playing that on the Switch, they made a big deal, and there was a little bit of move for them to shine because I know a lot of the community was like, "Yeah, I'm playing Pod Racer for the first time in like 20 years." And it's like, great, it
Right.
holds up. I played it. I was
No,
like,
it,
this
it
that game still holds up.
exactly. And again, this is what goes back to like we were just talking about this in my family a couple days ago about our plans for Thanksgiving or Christmas. And I think my sisters were like, "Well, are we playing a game this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, it can be either a board game or I'll break out the 64. Like, which one you want me to do?" So like, we definitely go back to the old school stuff that we grew up with, just because that was kind of our moment to bond as a family, was board games or playing video games as kids. That was the time where we probably got along the best. You know what I'm saying? So, and actually, and then speaking of other nostalgia about like racing, I was just playing what was it, Fast and the Furious on PlayStation
Yep.
2.
Oh, I love those
And
games.
then I thought, yeah, and then I thought to myself, it's like, I have Pod Racer for 64. I have, Rogue Squadron for 64. Like, imagine, remastering those games for, with modern technology on the Xbox or PS5, and like, imagine the fans like us who would make a point to get together with our friends and our buddies to be like, hey, hop online, or hey, let's get together and play. Like, imagine bringing that type of community back to gaming, where you had to be in the same room, like, and that's why I think this whole remastered talk has always been good for me, because we come from a generation where we didn't always have online play when we first started. I mean, online play was becoming a thing probably what, in the mid 2000s, early 10s.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, it was like, hey, you try and get together and play the game, come over to my house, and like we would sit
Well,
there, 4 or 5 buddies, eating pizza, drinking soda,
yep.
playing a game. Imagine bringing those type of games back to where people actually had to sit in a room together and play. Like
Well,
that, I think that's the missing component of gaming, which I think will make gaming fun again. and make it more like more of like, okay, this is a together thing. We got to do this together.
Yeah, well, Milton, there's a really good example of that actually pertaining to Star Wars and Halo actually. Even so with Star Wars Battlefront back in the day, the first game and the second game, me and my friends, there was like 8 or 9 of us, like in our like main friend group, I would say. And what we would do is like we would all go and schedule to like, okay, we're all gonna go and stay the night at so and so's house, and for at least 2 other people need to bring their Xboxes and extra TVs because we're gonna set up one of those Ethernet cable hubs
party.
and connect all the different Xboxes and shit and stuff together, and basically that was always so much fun because you'd have like 8 or 10 people all playing, like on an extreme end. Like at one time I went to like a Halo party in 2005 when I was like 13 years old, 12 years old, and there'd be 16 people playing, and one person walks to go get pizza and accidentally unplugs the Ethernet thing, and then it kills all the games and stuff, like so you have those classic like memories and things. And like that's the part, like you said, Milton, that's a really good point. I really think that's what's missing from gaming now, is that in-person experience of gaming. I mean, look, even like with Madden, if I play Madden against my cousin, we don't play in person. We're like, hey, hop on, I'll invite you to a game. It's not in person anymore. And like, that's a big part of gaming. And like, that's something that's missing, because like, it was always so much fun, like doing that. Or like, even if my friend Alex is listening, like he knows back in the day, like when we were in like 5th and 6th grade, that was when Star Wars, the first Lego game, came out for the prequel trilogy. We legit, like when that thing came out, because that came out in like May, like right around the time Revenge of the Sith did. We legit played that game from May to like the end of August when school started. We're like, okay, we're gonna 100% this game for our summer break, and that's all we did. Like every day, he'd call me and be like, hey, can you have your parents drop me off, or my parents drop me off, blah 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 blah. And that's all we did all day, like all summer. We were like, we're gonna 100% this game completely. It was like 12-year-olds. That was like a big accomplishment, and like that type of gaming is missing now.
I agree, and look, and I'm not going to sound like an old curmudgeon, because I like playing online too sometimes when it was like thing. Like, again, I think I'm like 3 or 4 years older than you guys in general. So like, when I graduated high school in 2005, 2006, like online play was starting to become a big thing. It was really starting to develop, and I know the Battlefront 2 game at the time was like one of those ones where it was really being expanded. So I enjoyed what the online reach was doing for gaming and for fans in general. I'm all about it, but I do miss the human touch, the human element touch of sitting down with my buddies on a random Friday or Saturday night, playing the game, BSing, talking crap, but enjoying your night. And obviously, especially playing the games that weren't multiplayer. Let's say you got the ones that are like, Super Star Wars, that's single player. And you
Mario 64.
You had to sit there and like, okay, how am I going to get past this guy? And you look at your buddy like, hey, what should I do here? And you guys try 20 different combinations, and then obviously whenever you didn't win, okay, next guy's up. You're going to try to beat the level. Like how dope was that? You know what I'm saying? So even like playing those type of games is like, what though, something about trying to beat something, and you couldn't do it, so you had to try to get your buddy to do it for you or help you out. But I mean, look, man, just thinking about how like I think all the Battlefronts need to be remade. We really need to get which is a crime. We needed a Battlefront 3. Facts.
Oh yeah.
We needed,
especially after the leaked Battlefront 3 footage from like 12 years ago.
You ain't lying. And then we needed a Force Unleashed 3. That's a travesty, because I know Sam Witwer talks about what that third game was going to be like, and how the story was going to build itself, and how Darth Vader was going to play everybody in that third game. So
burnt by the story of that second game.
Well,
and again,
I feel like that second game was a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. I don't know.
What's up?
I said I feel like the second Force Unleashed was like a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. It's like, oh, Boba Fett gets away with somebody, and it's like, what? It's just I've watched this movie before. What's going on here?
Oh, absolutely, because like he tracks Vader at the end, but like in the third game, Vader like he wanted himself to be captured because he wanted the rebellion. He wanted to get to the rebellion. So like Sam Witwer does a podcast like back like in like 2008, 2009 with like the old Far Far Away crew with
Uh-huh.
Christian Harloff and Tiffany Smith,
Yep.
and they talked about what that game would have looked. I think I still have that episode stored away somewhere, but he
Mm.
talks about like when Vader gets in front of the council, the War Council, or the Rebellion, like he wrecks shop, like he wanted to be there, and like that's how the game starts. So it was like,
Yeah.
oh damn, like why did we get an episode or a Force Unleashed 3? But I know they were going through that whole transition at that time, so
Oh yeah.
it is
Well,
what it is.
well, well. Another thing to bring up. You bring it up like how, like you said, Chris, it's kind of like somewhat of rehash Empire. Like that reminds me of another like cool little crossover from like that was included, going nostalgic back, with our gaming. So back for Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original one, one of the coolest things about that game was that was the first time, like on screen, really, they went and acknowledged like television, quote unquote, canon or whatever, like so in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 game, they acknowledged the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars
Hmm.
because here's the thing: if you play it online on that game, the only DLC characters for online multiplayer, it was Kit Fisto, and then the other one was Azaj Ventress, and like so
Oh.
that was well before the 3D animation Clone Wars we know now. So like that
Wow.
was the first time really on screen they acknowledged like the other like television quote unquote canon or whatever. So like it was cool just seeing like them include Azaj. I remember back then I was like, oh my gosh, we got to play it. And the cool thing now about that is if you go and download the new or the old Battlefront 2 on Xbox or any of your next gen
Mm-hmm.
systems, it has like those DLCs built in. So if you play heroes versus villains, like you can play as Azaj or Kit Fisto. Like so it's really cool like that they included those types of things even back then. Like they were crossing over from like the TV realm. So like that's like a big thing I'd love to see remastered. Um and yeah, like I don't know, like I just really think that's a good discussion point we've talked about tonight is like just the whole
Mm-hmm.
in-person gaming was such a big aspect of Star Wars gaming, and especially like your point, Milton, like grinding a single player campaign game with your buddies. Like so, like me and my friends, like my friend Alex, we would play Star Wars Lego. Even though it was co-op, we would still like sometimes we would play single player, like hand the controller back and forth or whatever. Or like with the Obi-Wan game, was single player, so like we would just hand the controller back and forth, playing that game, grinding it out and stuff. So like I think that's definitely like a lost art nowadays with all the online gaming.
Mhm.
But
Oh.
it does really make me want that type of stuff back. But also, like I just really, I think if they would just bring back these games, like I mean, heck, even make it a if you want to make it like an offer, because Lucasfilm loves their money. So like, why not do like a $50 offer and
Oh
it gives
yeah.
you like access to all
Yep.
these games? Like just do that, like a one-time $50 fee. Boom, you have access to all these games on your system. Like I would love that.
Facts.
Like
Yeah.
and that thing would sell so fast.
Well, they're doing something like that for
No,
the Switch.
I think it's a good idea.
They have a
What'd you
Switch
say?
deal. They have a Switch deal coming out for Nintendo Switch. I think this Christmas time, where it's like literally every Star Wars game that they've put out in one
Mm,
disc or something, and it's
Yeah.
like $50. So it's like, yeah, create the volume two of that, and a game that I haven't said yet is Jedi Power Battles. I don't
oh, I
care if
love
the
that game.
game is bad. I haven't played it since I was like 10. But I just remember the gigantic, the 10-foot long lightsaber, and Mace Windu having a blue lightsaber. I think it was Plo Koon had like a yellow lightsaber. It was crazy. Like this was before Attack of the Clones, so they didn't know what the colors of these lightsabers were. But it was fun. It was like a party game. I remember. I think it was multiplayer. A lot of those types of games would work really well in today's day and age with co-op being online and stuff. So that we also had Rob D reading my mind, Shadows of the Empire. Yes, it's on Steam, but it's not on like a console yet. So technically,
Oh
that
yeah,
should
God, how do we
still
forget
be
that one?
remastered.
Yeah, yeah, that one needs a full like upgrade remake. I mean,
Yeah,
just
do a
because like it's
remake on that
because
one. You're right.
I think that game that game's kind of like the Knights of the Old Republic where it's such a
Yeah.
dark game and like I want to see how they will make it better, but keep it to the original story,
Yeah.
but like add like small elements to it to like flesh out characters, flesh out story. Like yeah, but that I mean that's kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. That you need to take care of that one.
That
Like
is
you
one of the
can't just
shining
remaster. Like,
things of Star
does
Wars
that
are
make
the
sense
gaming.
though?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
There's certain
like
games where it's like,
it's one
yeah,
of it's one
just
of
an
the crown.
upres it. But then in games
Yeah,
like that, it's like
it's one of the
make it,
crown jewels
yeah,
of the of video games.
crown jewels. Yes, that's what I was
Like
saying.
because you can't. That's the best way because like you can't because everyone loves that game till this day. I mean, it's like if you remake certain games and you say, oh hey, we're gonna remake. I'll use another example of a game. Let's say Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna remake that. You cannot make it trash because there's so many people that love those games. Or like Sonic the Hedgehog or Mario. Like you can't disrespect those titles because they're legendary titles. Shadows of the Empire is one of those legendary titles. You can't disrespect that if you remake it. Like facts. You got to go all out. So yeah, I agree with that. That's a good pick.
Oh yeah, like I can't believe we hadn't thought of that one, but that one's a really good one too, just because it's like it's so in depth. There's so much you can do. There's so much like cool aspects to it, like exploring around like the maps and everything. It's not just like it's obviously it was made in the 90s, but like it's such a good game because like it has a lot of little in-depth details
yeah.
too. Like one of my favorite parts, I'll never forget, like when I was over at my buddy's, like he always had a 64 back then, and we would play that game, and it was fun because like when you would play the mission on Hoth, like when you're going through the base and stuff, you could go, and it's like an Easter egg. You could go and unlock like the jail cells basically, and it would let out Wampas and stuff, and then the Wampas would be like going all throughout the map and everything with you. Like as long as you avoided them, they would like take out the stormtroopers for you and everything. And like those type of, it's cool that like games like that, even in the 90s, had little Easter eggs like that. So like, I just those type of things were always fun. And then of course, guys, we can't. We're talking remasters and stuff. I think what they should do really to like get real fun with it, if we would go on like remaster games and stuff, they should introduce new cheat codes for the remastered games, like like up, down, whatever on the control pads, like because back in the day, like you'd have to go and like look up cheat codes from like cheat code books and stuff. Like it's like, hey, have some fun with it, like input the cheat codes on those games, like you had all kinds of things like that.
Oh man, I think we just kind of scratched the surface tonight of some of these games. There's so many to talk about. There's probably a couple we've forgotten about, and that's where you guys can come in. Those of you watching, those of you listening, send us feedback. What are your games you want to see on this list? What games would you like to see get remastered, get the special treatment to be modified, updated to be able to play on any of your current gen hardware? Let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days. I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had a lively chat. Rob D, Attila, the Finster, everybody out there. We had a great time talking to y'all, coming up with great ideas. Apparently, Rob D was saying that there's Battlefront 2 on the original Xbox is actually one of the most popular games ever. After Halo and Halo 2. So there was definitely...
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Again, that game, I'm telling you, man, like that game was so far. And again, I wasn't really into the war games except for those. Like I was like, okay, I can rock with these because there was something special about that game. And like I said, it's a travesty and it's a crime that we never got number 3. Like
I know,
I know, like I said, it logically makes no sense. And I don't care what Lucasfilm or LucasArts could try to tell me to feed me some BS. It's a crime and a travesty because we deserved a third game.
Well, you can still find that leaked third game footage out there on YouTube. You look it up; it's still posted from like 12, 13 years ago. And like the gameplay was so wild because it was like you could literally like seamlessly go from ground to atmosphere to space, like because the clip that's out there, for anybody that hasn't seen it, it shows like the character flying around the atmosphere of Coruscant. Like they first are walking around Coruscant, they get in a ship, are flying around the atmosphere of Coruscant, then they fly up to space. Mind you, when they fly up to space, the map, it doesn't even load. It's just like seamless. They fly up into space and they go into a whatever the clone trooper ships are called, like the Star Destroyers, I guess. They go into a clone trooper Star Destroyer, and literally the guy goes in, docks in the hangar, gets out, and he's exploring inside the cruiser, and it's all seamless, like no loading or anything. And it's like, what in the world? Like, so it's like, I wish we had that game. Just release whatever that game is, like do some touch ups or something. Like just release it, because like that game,
And here's the thing.
we deserved it.
Two things. And two things. One, just release, make the games or release the games that should have been made. So all the canceled games like 1313, all that type of stuff, just make those and give them to us, because we're gonna buy them and play them. Facts. And just bring back Lucas Arts, because we know that they'll do their job and give us what they want. Give us what they want. I mean, come on, like just give us Lucas Art back. Let's go.
Oh man. Yeah, so there you have it. There's our list. We're excited as always, very passionate when it comes to the video game side of things, keeping the lights on for the Star Wars fandom here on Outer Rim Transmission. Where can the people find you? First of all, who won the game anyway?
Philly did. We did. We almost gave it away, but we won. So thank God. Fly Eagles fly.
There we go. There we go. Coming through. And
Nice.
yeah, so where can they find you online?
They can find me on Twitter at MiltonWeber7 or Instagram Milton7Weber. Again, usually posting something funny, something just lighthearted. Sometimes my fitness when I'm motivated to post anything. Just to hit me up, keep it positive. I have no problems interacting with anybody, because just trying to be me and just have a good time on social media. So find me at those platforms. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you.
All right, there you go. What about you, Ben?
Oh yeah, you can find me on Twitter talking Star Wars or sports, or potentially this week the Minecraft Star Wars game. If the DLC for Star Wars Minecraft is free, I'll probably play it, but if it's like $20, I'll probably pass. So we'll see here on November 7th, if any of our listeners are listening. That's when it's supposed to be coming out. It's a prequel era like story mode or something with Minecraft. I don't know. I really don't know how Minecraft works. It's been like 10 years since I played it, but I saw Star Wars and prequels, so I'm going to have to check it out. But you can find me at RealBenMaynard on Twitter, and then on Instagram, like Milton said, if I'm motivated to post my fitness stuff, I will. You could find me there at RealBenMaynard as well.
All right, and as always, connected to video games, first of all, I've been playing Diablo 4. I streamed that last night here on YouTube. You can find that replay on the channel. As I said, I am about more than halfway through Jedi Survivor on my playthrough. Been uploading like 45-minute, hour-long chunks, easy to digest little episodes, if you will, on the channel. I have a whole playlist for those. Continuing through the story on Jedi Master New Game Plus mode. Having a great time with that, so expect more of those videos to come out in this upcoming week. Other than that, as always, go check out the podcast that me and Matthew do over on the Star Wars Underworld Network on Canon, Tractor Beam, talking the latest in comics. I talk about the reviews, and then we break it down in more detail the day after on his channel. Think that about does it. Go ahead, rate us on any of your podcast apps of choice, Spotify, Apple, Google, and you can find us here next week, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope you guys can make it. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. May the Force be with you always. End transmission. All righty.